Hi everyone, so today I am going to be discussing depression and anxiety. The reason for this is because it was requested by someone that was really close to me, and I, me and her have a lot in common, and we both deal with depression, we both deal with anxiety, so it was really a step for her to actually request a video from me on how I dealt with depression and how I deal with my anxiety. Um, so that is why I really wanted to do this video. The way I dealt with depression, I would like to discuss the background story of actually why I fell into depression first. That way you guys know where I'm coming from instead of me just talking about it. Um, I fell into depression after I had my son. It dealt with his father mostly. We were both young. We were 15 when I got pregnant, and I had my son at 16 years of age. And we were in a long distance relationship because I ended up moving, and it was really hard on us finding out that I was pregnant after I moved. And during the pregnancy is when we really drifted apart. So based on pregnancy hormones and then based on the fact that we were in a long distance relationship, I was dealing with a lot of emotions that I didn't know how to handle, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to because I didn't really want to go to my mother about it. So I ended up just holding on to a lot of the problems I was having. I didn't talk to anyone about it. And after I had my son, it was a really hard time for me because of the things that I've found out after I had my son, and then the months prior, a lot of things ended up happening as well. The relationship wasn't going well, and then I wasn't able to go to school. I ended up having to do school at home because I had my son. I had friends per se, but I wasn't talking to them either because it's hard to talk to someone when they can't necessarily relate to you. So I didn't reach out to anybody. I didn't actually talk to anyone about how I was feeling until December when I met my husband. Met my husband because we already knew each other. But I would talk to him about the relationship, and I would talk to him about the things that were going on, and it was really helpful, but I was doing it for so long. I'm the kind of person that holds on to something for a really long time before it actually bothers me enough to where I will want to talk to someone about it, and it had gotten to that point to where even though I was telling my husband about the relationship, I was telling my husband about how it was to be a teenage mother, it helped in a way, but in a way it didn't, because I felt that I couldn't relate to him because I didn't know any other mothers who were dealing with this or who were, pregnant or who had children. I was just by myself because we had moved to a new area. And after I had talked to him, that new year in January, my son wasn't there because he was spending time with his father, so it was just me by myself. I didn't have my son there to basically take my mind off of everything that was going on. So that was when I started to self-harm. I was actually self-harming years before that, but I had stopped. I had actually got myself out of it, and then a couple of months after having my son in that new year, January, I ended up doing it once again because he wasn't there anymore. So I ended up self-harming, and it helped, but then it didn't help because I knew what I was doing was wrong, but because it was a reliever for me, I continued to do it anyway. So I would self-harm, and I still have the marks from it. I see it every day, and then sometimes I regret it, but then sometimes I don't, because if I didn't do it, then I wouldn't be where I am today. So instead of self-harming, I had to put myself in the mindset that I have a son now. I have a child to take care of, and I have to put my best foot forward and to be able to move on with this. So I had to start reaching out to people. I had to start talking to people. And even though I told myself this, I still didn't do it. Simply because the way I relieved myself of depression is I would date guys. That is how I would talk to guys. Not necessarily date them, but I would talk to guys because I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to feel like someone cared for me, and that was my ticket out of it. So I would talk to guys off the internet, and some guys I knew, like from school. I used to talk to this one guy from school. I talked to another guy that I had met offline. And then when I was doing it, eventually it got to the point where that wasn't working either. And this is where my husband re-entered into the picture because we had stopped talking for a while. So what ended up happening was my husband was actually a big reason as to how I dealt with my depression, because he fit both the criteria of how I dealt with my depression. Because since I was talking to guys, I would talk to him, and he made me feel the way that I wanted to be felt. But then he was also encouraging me and getting me out of these negative thoughts I was having, making me feel, well, telling me that, you know, I'm a good woman and that I need to put myself in a position that was better for me and my son. So since we started dating, I put all of my time into being with him. See, look, we have a visitor. Don't burp on camera. I was putting all of my time into him so that I wouldn't have to think about all the things that was going on, so that I wouldn't have to deal with the problems that I was having with my son's father, so I wouldn't have to deal with the problems of me trying to find a job at the time, so I wouldn't have to deal with the problems of me trying to get into a school. I put all of my energy, I put all of my time, I put all of my well-being into my husband, and it was a problem because it hurt the relationship more than helping both of us, because he was having problems as well, and then I was having problems, and then we put all of our energy into each other, and it was hurting both of us. So we ended up breaking up, which was harder on both of us because we relied on each other so much that we didn't know how to socialize with other people. And with my anxiety is actually called generalized social anxiety disorder, meaning that I have regular anxiety where I worry all the time, I stress all the time, but then having social anxiety is being afraid of being judged by others, being afraid of going out in social situations and embarrassing myself, talking to people that I don't know. So I basically had to start all over again because now that I wasn't with him. So once again, I put all of my energy into talking to guys to make myself feel better. And it actually made the situation worse because some of the guys that I was dating weren't good for me. Some of the guys I was dating, they were just using me for their own benefit. So it didn't help me any, and I ended up worsening my depression. I ended up worsening my anxiety because now the stress reliever that I had always gone to was making me feel even worse. So I had to make a decision for myself because I was getting to that point where I wanted to self-harm again, and I didn't want to do that, and I knew that I needed help. I needed someone to talk to, and since I didn't want to talk to my family, I didn't have any friends because I wasn't talking to anyone. My husband, we talked on and off, but we were, kind of mad at each other, and then since we hadn't been dating for a long period of time, we basically had different lives then. So I had to make a decision for myself, and I knew I needed help, so I went to counseling. The college that I was going to, I went to counseling there, and that is actually how I found out that I had generalized social anxiety disorder. I knew I had anxiety, but with the social anxiety, it was one of those things where I figured that this is how I laid out my social life. I don't really have a lot of girlfriends because it's easier to talk to guys than to talk to girls. So that's how I thought of myself. But there was a lot of things that my counselor had pointed out to me that I did that dealt with anxiety and that dealt with depression. And that's one of the things that depression and anxiety can do to you. It takes a lot for you to realize that you may be depressed or that you may have anxiety, because most people don't know these things. Like, as for me, I just thought that it was easier for me to talk to guys than to talk to girls. And even though I knew that I was using the guys for my own benefit, to make myself feel better, to make myself feel loved, and to push myself forward in life, that's a form of anxiety, because you're not actually putting yourself in a social situation. You're kind of just relying on other people. And you usually do that when you're in depression or when you have anxiety. So one of the things that I want you to know is that when you're depressed, it is better to talk to someone first thing or firsthand, or even if you don't realize you're depressed. If you are worrying a lot, if you are stressing a lot, talk to someone about it. First, I wasn't going to go to counseling. I was afraid to go to counseling because of my anxiety. I was afraid of being judged by my counselor. I knew that my son needed a mother who was always going to be there. And since I was self-harming can lead to worse things down the road. And I wanted to be there for my son. So I pushed myself to go to counseling. If you need the help, go to counseling. If you need someone to talk to a friend, talk to a family member. If you can talk to your parents, talk to your parents. Another thing that my counselor did for me, like, if you have social anxiety, or if you have anxiety at all, or even if you're depressed, don't sit in the house and mope around. Don't sit in the house and don't talk to anyone. Don't sit in the house and not do anything at all, like you're just staring at the four walls. One of the things to get yourself out of depression, one of the things to get yourself out of anxiety, is to go out and face your challenges, is to go out and face the world, basically. Go out and put yourself into a social situation, because that is exactly what my counselor made me do. She made me go out and talk to people. She made me go out with the friends that I had made at school, even though I didn't consider them friends. Basically, one of the ways that I dealt with anxiety is that I had to sit down and think about all the things that I was worrying about. I had to sit down and think about how this was affecting my life, how it was affecting my health. Oh my goodness. And I had to let those things go. There was a lot of things that I let go in my life that was worrying me, that was bothering me, that was affecting my son, that was affecting my schoolwork, affecting my job. I had to let those things go because it was messing with who I was. It was messing with my life, and you don't want anyone to bring you down. You don't want anything to bring you down. And if it's a negative impact on your life, let it go. If it's a positive impact on your life, but it needs improvement, work on it. A lot of people need someone to talk to them, or I know a lot of people need someone to tell them that you are worth it in life, that there are better things coming for you, and you don't need to hold your head down. Hold your head up and keep your chin high. Bye bye. If you would like to see how I did this look, is actually an everyday look. So if you would like to see it, please comment below and I will get that done for you.